Our life is short. We just get one. And so why not make it as intense and as wonderful as it can be by design?
Wow.
So this poem, is that narrative. And
Okay.
it's done sort of in a noir way.
Okay, well, have at it.
I woke up around midnight. I was alone in a small studio that I'd rented the week before, ostensibly to write, but I spent most of my time drinking red wine and thinking about nothing in particular. I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. I found myself down at the St. Joe River looking for a place where I could stay dry and watch the snow fall. I finally settled down on a bench under a canvas shelter outside the Century Center. That's when I saw him. He was sitting about 10 feet away, looking out toward the water. "Nice night," he said. "Yeah," I said, "it is." He looked like he was mostly German Shepherd and maybe a little black lab. And he seemed to me like a dog that wanted to get something off his chest. "This is where I come to think," he said. "And anyway, I'm sort of on the street, I guess you'd say. Up until tonight, I was staying with an older woman. I met her down at the shelter, the humane shelter. I don't live there. I just stay there sometimes between gigs. She said she was a volunteer dog walker, and we just kind of hit it off. We'd go on long walks along the river, maybe hit a couple parks. And after a while, she stopped walking the other dogs. Next thing you know, I'm living at her place on Jefferson Street." She had a day job, and when she was at work, I'd read. I worked my way through Dostoevsky and Pushkin, and then one day I found a book by Jack London. I really dug the fact that Call of the Wild had an animal protagonist. You don't see a lot of that. Anyway, I was midway through the last chapter, where Buck begins to have mystical experiences in the forest. And suddenly it came to me. I wanted Off the Leash. From then on, everything was different. I was becoming more alive every day. But Carol continued to fill every waking moment with endless chatter about hobbies, vacations, movies. It was like she wanted to drown out the voices that were calling her away from her secondhand life. At first, I couldn't explain it. Then it came to me. She was not living in dog years. "So what is it?" he said, "something like 7-to-1? Which means if you're a dog, you have to pack 7 dog years into every calendar year because you don't have all that long. And that awareness of mortality electrifies your soul. It makes you want to stick your head out the car window with your nostrils flared and your tongue blowing backwards. See, to live in dog years, you have to give up the illusion of security, deny your own sanity, and give yourself over to something wilder. You have to grab life by the neck and shake it until you're dizzy. There's no time to waste on the past or the future. Life is now. This is real, man. Actual reality." And then he jumped up and tore off after a cat, disappearing around a bend in the sidewalk. He came back a few minutes later. He was panting and doing that kind of silent laugh that dogs do. He sat down and looked at the river for a while, and then went on with his story. "Yeah, well, once I got the idea of dog years," he said, "I knew I had to find a way to express myself. So I started to work on my howling. You see, howling is not about musicality or even the sound itself. A real howl is an act of immediate creation, a thing that is born and dies right in front of you. It's an expression of being truly alive. It surges up through the pads of your paws and jets out of you like blood, noble and sorrowful and very, very sincere. It's a conversation between the ancient spirit of the earth and the great abyss. And it's using your living flesh as a conduit. Howling helps you defeat your intellect. It's the voice of the shadow, of mortality. And if you can howl, you can stay in command long after your muzzle has gone gray, simply by throwing back your head and raising your voice until it becomes a rusty knife blade ripping right through the skin of the night sky. He scratched his side with his hind leg for a while, then continued. So anyway, a few days ago I was at the apartment working on my howling, and Carol came home early and walked in on me. It was a bad scene, man. I couldn't make her understand. She was crying and yelling. Well, eventually she calmed down, but we were both walking on eggs after that. And then last night she brought home one of those round dog beds for me. She said she didn't feel comfortable with me sleeping on the foot of the bed anymore. Well, that was the last straw. I started walking, and I haven't gone back. He was quiet after that. The snow was coming down hard now, obliterating the lines of the man-made world and revealing something wilder and more ancient. We sat together in silence for a while, and then I wished him luck and walked off back towards my studio, thinking hard about how to live in dog years.
Jim Yocom. Amazing.